Alright, so I'm gonna make a video about September. September is mostly known as Labor Day, but it's also known as 9/11, which is basically the biggest terrorist attack in America and one of the biggest terrorist attacks of all time. If you don't know what 9/11 is, it was basically a terrorist attack planned by Osama bin Laden, who's basically the leader of Al Qaeda, who sent 19 hijackers to attack America because he didn't like America, or him and America probably has some beef. I don't really know the full story. I don't know much about 9/11. I always learn new things about it this year because I first heard about 9/11 because I wasn't alive or born for it, but I first knew about it maybe like when I was in middle school, maybe 2013, 14, maybe around those times. And the only thing I knew about was a plane crashing into a building. I once thought maybe it was an accident or maybe someone from a different country came in and crashed the plane, but it actually wasn't that at all. I actually got full details last year that I actually always knew that it was a terrorist attack. I just didn't necessarily know what it was. One of my teachers, he told me he was actually alive for it. He wasn't in New York, but he was actually alive for it. He told me that it was the most heartbreaking moment of all time, and he's experienced a lot of heartbroken moments in his life. He basically said he called it. I think a lot of people call this as well. Is that when the world basically stopped? He basically said that where he lived, he said there was no cars in the street. There was pretty much nothing. But speaking of the attack, anyways, one two interesting about the attack is that the days you can it's very easy to remember. You if you didn't know this, you always can go back a year. Like what year did we leave? Right now we're in 2019. You could say instead of counting from 2001 to whatever year that you're in, you could say it was 9/11. It was basically 18 years ago because it's the 18th year anniversary this year. Last year when it was 2018, it was the 17th year anniversary, and when it's 2017, it was the 16th year anniversary, and whenever it will be 2021, it will be the 20th year anniversary. And when it was 2002, it was the 2000, it was a year ago. So basically, you just have to go 1 year back just to remember that. And another thing about 9/11 is actually that the guy that planned it was actually Osama bin Laden, like I said before, the leader of Al Qaeda. He was. It took over 10 years for them to actually find him. It was they found him in what do you call it? Yeah, it was in Pakistan. He was actually born in Saudi Arabia, but they found him in Pakistan. And what do you call it? Is he was actually killed the same well not the same year, but right exactly 10 years later. So you can kind of do the same thing. I don't think people you can actually kind of do the same thing. Like you can go back. It's basically died 8 years ago as well, and 9/11 just 10 plus years, 18 years ago as well. Speaking of the hijackers, by the way, a lot of my teachers told me that one of them back in 2016, he told me that he was actually 15 when 9/11 happened. He didn't know much about it. Another one of them, she actually the one at my new high school now. She said that she started teaching at the high school I go to now since 1999, and she was actually in the library as it happened before, and they brought in a TV, and nobody had a clue what was going on. I actually saw what's called live footage of what do you call, like, well, I wasn't born, but like you can still find it on YouTube of whenever the second plane crashed into the Twin Towers. Speaking of, sorry to go off topic, but speaking of the Twin Towers, they were made I think in 1973. So if they were still here today, they would be about 46 years old. Just that's just an interesting fact if you didn't know. Anyways, like I said before, I didn't know much about it, but the most I learned about it was the current teacher I have now, and I actually learned that it was a hijack, and it was four guys. Well, they were mostly from Saudi Arabia. Some of them, they said they were from Egypt. Some of them were from some other country in the Middle East, but they actually cut the neck of the pilots. I learned new things about this tragic event every single year that I didn't know. I knew that there was a memorial for 9/11, but I just didn't know. I know it's in New York. It's like a waterfall, and they have all the names for the people that died. I would actually like to, if I ever do go to New York, which is actually one of the places I want to go in the U.S. That was definitely one of the first places I definitely want to visit. It's definitely a dream of mine to visit there, and I also like to see other cool things in New York as well. It's one of the biggest cities in America, so that's another interesting about it. And another interesting about 9/11, actually, I don't remember another interesting. I think that's pretty much it, but thanks for watching. And no, I didn't do this to make this video just to make for views or anything like that. I just want to talk about an important 9/11 event. And I personally do hope, it's also hashtag never forget. I personally do hope that people don't forget this event 100 years down the line, 200 years down the line. I feel like it's gonna be like President's Day. They're gonna make it like a 9/11 day. Is probably gonna be like a work day off and a school day off. Maybe like in the near future they might do that. Every president, basically every single year, which I definitely think they should, will always honor this event, will always talk about it. Like Trump, he talked about 2017 when he first became president, last year and this year, and he might talk about it more and more in the future. Same thing with Obama, and Bush was actually president while the event actually happened, the tragic happened. But anyways, I heard that when the attack happened, Bush, he was actually like reading a story to like elementary school. I don't know if this is true or not, but he was actually reading a story to elementary school kids, and then somebody came in and just told him, and he basically had apologized, which basically made a lot of sense that he actually had to go. Um, I can. Some people, when the first plane hit the building, there were four jets. I don't think the fourth one hit. It was three of them that hit. The two of them hit the twin towers. The first one that hit, well, both of them, the people actually, some people actually committed suicide, which I think is very understandable. Suicide in general is basically understandable. I think that people with suicide I actually do think that if they feel depressed or stressed, they should definitely get help. But speak, but anyways, like I was saying, they actually jumped off the building because they could either die from smoke, fire, a building collapsing on them, or suicide. But I personally do hope that nothing like this ever happens. Even though I wasn't born or never lost anybody in it, because none of my family lives in New York, it was still a very tragic moment to feel for those people, and the people that were alive at that time had zero clue what was going on or why it was going on. But I think that's all I pretty much had to say about 9/11. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the camera angle again. I'm still working on trying to get a better camera angle.